First of all, don't do this. Step one is, how do you find a session? And the answer to that sort of depends on what part of the world you're living in, at least potentially. I'm in the United States, and around here it's very regional. Some spots have a thriving Irish music scene, and some spots don't. But the easiest way that I've found anyway is to ask around at Irish pubs. That's typically where you're going to find a session. That's maybe the stereotype, but that's usually where they end up. And a lot of times it's just good to find your local Irish pub and just ask if they're doing any music, ask if they're doing traditional music. Bartenders and managers, they should know. They'll probably be able to tell you. If that makes you uncomfortable, or you just aren't really aware of Irish pubs or that kind of a scene, Google. That's the simple solution, because we live in the future and pretty much everything is online. Unfortunately, Irish music is not nearly, I would say, as well promoted as other things, so it may be a bit of a struggle to find stuff online, but it can't hurt. There's also a few good, well-managed lists of sessions nationwide, worldwide, really, which I'll link down below. Check that out. But kind of getting out there and just asking around is usually your best bet, and it's going to get you into the community pretty quickly, I think, too, which has its own benefits. The second most common question that I get asked is, what tune should I learn if I want to go play at a session? And unfortunately, the answer to that is also very regionally dependent. The tunes that I've got at my local session here in Nashville, Tennessee, USA, would vary quite a bit from something in Tokyo or Dublin or Toronto. Probably. There's going to be some overlap. There are some that everybody just likes to play. There are some what we call standard session tunes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get played at your session on the night that you go. The easiest way is just ask. Just like you're looking for a session, if you find one, ask the folks there. Some sessions will keep a list, some don't, a lot of them don't, but some of them do. And it can't hurt to say, what tunes do you guys play? Does anybody have a list? And email me, send me a list. And you can work off of that. That's a good, decent place to start. The better option that I would say, well, not necessarily a better option, an additional option perhaps, is to record the session that you find. Record the tunes that they're actually playing, because that way you'll know, these guys know these tunes. And if I learn them, I'll probably be able to play them. Now, caveat to that, I would always ask first. But now that, again, that we live in the future, you can grab your phone, you got a built-in recorder on there that sounds pretty good, or, hang tight. A lot of times I'll bring this thing. This is a Zoom stereo recorder. This thing's really old. It's gotta be like 10 or 15 years old. Still works. It's a little beat to hell. They've got newer versions of this that are smaller and probably better, but this thing works great. It's stereo, it's got really good quality, but your phone is a perfectly good option as well. Again, ask first. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, no problem, particularly if you're telling them that you want to learn their tunes. You want to learn what they're playing so that you can participate. Again, 9 times out of 10, everybody's more than happy to do that if that's your goal. I will put a list of what we call standard session tunes down below. That's from thesession.org. That's a good, reputable source, and they're good standard tunes. They're ones that everybody plays, and they're good ones to get, but keep in mind that variability from place to place, and that may not be exactly the tunes that you're going to hear when you go to your first session. Now, there are different types of sessions too. There are beginner sessions, sometimes they call them slow sessions, and then there are advanced sessions. Be honest with yourself. If you're a beginner, go to beginner sessions to play, but go to advanced sessions to listen and to learn. I think both are useful no matter where you are on the process of evolving in this music. But again, be honest with yourself. Don't go to an advanced session expecting to sit down and play everything at your tempo. They're not going to want to do that, and it's going to disrupt the process. Likewise, if you're an advanced player and you go to a beginner session, it's going to be a little slower, and that's okay. You can still learn something in either case. So take advantage of both types, but be aware of what it is that you're walking into and what your relationship to that session should be. I started off this video with a joke about piling all the instruments onto the table and said, don't do that. Let's talk a little bit about what you should in fact bring. First things first, melody only. That's flute, whistle, uilleann pipes, accordion, tenor banjo, fiddle, concertina. What did I forget? Did I forget anybody? I think that's it. The basic melody instruments. Ask about rhythm instruments before you show up. The reason for that is most sessions will either not allow rhythm instruments, that's a thing that happens, or 2, they've already got their bodhrán player or their guitar player or their bouzouki player. And you don't need more than one of those. You just don't. It's just overlapping and it just causes more noise. So be aware that you may not be nearly as welcome if you're a rhythm player. It's just kind of the way things go. So stick with melody. Now, if you are a flute and a whistle player, or if you're a piper and a whistle player, no harm in bringing both in that case. A lot of times I won't bring the whistle, but sometimes I will if I know there's going to be another flute player there, just to change it up and give a little bit of a different dynamic. Nothing wrong with that. But if you play 4 different instruments, pick your best one and stick with that. Now, how to get into a session. Actual etiquette. A couple of do's and don'ts. Number 1, don't bring all your instruments. We just talked about that. Number 2, don't set up camp where the session is going to be. I've seen that happen a few times where somebody is super eager and they bring in all their crap and they plop down and they're just waiting for the party to start. And what happens is everybody will wait you out. Or they'll just ask you to leave, neither which is great. But nobody's in any big rush, and if they see a punter who's sitting there taking up space, they'll just wait. Similarly, don't try to be the first one playing. There's no need. A lot of these folks know each other, they're all friends, they've got a couple things they want to get started. Let the thing get going first, and then simply walk up and say, hey guys, y'all mind if I sit down and have a few tunes? I play insert instrument name here. Would you mind if I had a couple with you? And if you do it like that, again, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, totally, no problem. There may be an issue with space, be aware of that. There may just not physically be enough room if it's a smaller area. But if there is, and if the people are decent, they'll usually go, yeah, totally, come on in. What kind of tunes do you play? And they'll ask you a couple of questions like that as you're getting set up. Tip number 3, do have a couple of sets of tunes in your back pocket. In theory, if they let you in, they welcome you in, they'll give you a chance to get set up, and eventually they're going to say, give us a couple of tunes, give us a blast of tunes, will you? Have one ready to go. I would say have a good set of jigs and have a good set of reels. Mostly because if whatever they've just played is one, you can play the other, so that you're not playing back-to-back sets of tunes. Some sessions care, some sessions don't, but it's good to have both of those ready to go, because those are always your safest bets. Don't mess around with an air, don't mess around with something super obscure. Go with something good and standard, and something that you're good at, that you can play pretty well. Have those sets ready to fire, should you be asked. When you complete that set of tunes, cede the floor. Don't sit there and play your next set of tunes. Don't keep going throughout the whole night. Go, cool, that was fun, and you can put your instrument down and you can let somebody else have a blast. Or let the conversation carry on. That's the other problem that you see a lot at sessions, and the reason people don't get invited back is because they noodle. They'll plunk away on their whatever instrument they're doing while other people are trying to talk, and they're really trying to just make it about them and make everybody listen to them. And those folks don't get invited back. So definitely do not noodle under any circumstances. Along the same lines of the irritation spectrum, do not get too drunk. Those of you who drink, knock yourselves out, but don't get blotto. Nobody wants that, and those folks don't get invited back either. So that's it. That's what I got. Hopefully this is of some value to y'all. Let me know now that the world is kind of coming back to normal and sessions are starting up again. Hopefully y'all be able to track a few down. I'm starting to where I am. It's awesome. It's really nice to be able to get out and play tunes just for fun, just to get back and really do it again. Hopefully everybody else is experiencing the same thing, or we're getting closer to it anyway. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know what you think of these tips, tricks, whatever. If I missed something, drop that down below too. I'd be curious what your experience is in the session world, because it's not exactly the same everywhere you go. So let me know. All right, y'all, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.